When people ask me why I refuse to have trees in my backyard, I don't know how to answer without sounding insane. I could say it's because of what happened when I was a child, but that isn't the whole truth. The truth is, the tree is gone. Yet sometimes, late at night, I still hear my name being whispered from the empty patch of dirt where it used to stand. I grew up in a small house at the edge of our town, where the streetlights ended and the dark fields began. Behind our house stood an old date palm, taller than any other tree in the neighborhood. Its trunk was twisted, scarred, like something had been clawing at it for years. My father said it had been there before he was born, before his father too. To everyone else, it was just a tree. To me, from as early as I can remember, it was awake. The first time I noticed the whispers, I was 6. I was carrying a bucket of water from the outdoor tap, the handle biting into my small fingers, when a thin, shivering sound slipped through the air. It was like the rustling of dry leaves, but with a pattern. Breath in, breath out. Like someone trying to speak through a cracked throat. I froze. The bucket tilted, water sloshing over my bare feet. The sound seemed to come from the date palm, from the dry grey fronds above me. Just the wind, my mother said later, when I told her. Say Bismillah and ignore it. So I tried. Every time I walked past the tree, I whispered Bismillah under my breath. But the older I got, the clearer the whispers became. They weren't words at first, just a hiss that slithered over my skin, especially at Maghrib, when the sky bled orange and purple, and the call to prayer sailed over the rooftops. I remember one evening, the air thick with the smell of frying onions, my mother shouting for me to come inside. Instead of obeying immediately, I lingered by the back door, my eyes drawn to the silhouette of the palm. Its fronds were barely moving, yet I heard it. Sharp, close, almost at my ear. Come. I dropped the toy in my hand. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to scream for my mother, but my voice stuck. The trunk seemed darker than before, the rough bark almost pulsing in the fading light. Then I remembered what my teacher had told us, that the Prophet ﷺ said, when the night falls, then keep your children close, for the devils spread out at that time. I ran inside, panting, and slammed the door. My mother scolded me for staying out, and I didn't tell her what I heard. I was afraid she would think I was making it up, or worse, that I was attracting something by talking about it. For years, the whispers stayed just out of reach, like someone breathing through the cracks of a closed door. Sometimes at night, if my window was open, I'd wake up to that soft hiss. The curtains would be still, no wind, the moonlight carving the shape of the date palm on my wall. I'd lie there, paralyzed, reciting Ayatul Kursi under my breath, until sleep finally pulled me under. It was when I turned 12 that it called my name. It was a hot afternoon in summer. Everyone was asleep, the house heavy with the quiet of Kailula. I went outside with a book, wanting to sit in the shade of the wall. The sky was bright, no breeze, the world so still, I could hear the distant hum of cars on the highway. I walked past the palm, eyes on the ground. Aisha. I stopped so abruptly my sandals scraped the dirt. The voice was thin, dry, but unmistakable. It dragged across my name like it was tasting it. My throat went cold. Who's there? I whispered, though I already knew no one was. The yard was empty. Our neighbor's house was locked. I could see the padlock on their gate. The air had that strange, heavy feeling, like right before a storm. But the sky remained clear. Aisha. This time it was closer, curling around my ear from behind, though nothing was there when I spun around. My legs trembled. I staggered backward, my heel hitting a rock. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, I stammered, the words tumbling out of my dry mouth. As soon as I said it, the whisper cut off. The silence that followed was almost louder. That night, I told my father. He listened quietly, his face serious, not dismissive like I'd feared. Jinn live in many places, he said finally. Among them are believers and disbelievers. The Quran tells us this. They can live in trees, in ruins, in empty lands. He glanced toward the back of the house. Maybe something has taken that tree as a home. He taught me more adkar, more du'as of protection. He reminded me that Ibn Taymiyyah had said jinn can attach themselves to places and people, sometimes to harm, sometimes just to cause fear. Don't speak to it, he warned. If you hear it again, recite Quran. Don't answer. I tried. For years after that, I walked past the tree without looking up, whispering Ayatul Kursi, Suratul Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, An-Nas. The tree creaked. Its fronds rattled. The whispers occasionally brushed the edge of my hearing, but it never spoke my name again. Eventually, I convinced myself I had imagined it. Time passed. I grew up. I got married, moved away. My father died. My mother stayed in that old house, refusing to leave the memories buried in its walls. The date palm remained, looming over the backyard like a watchful sentinel. Then, a few years ago, after my mother's health began to fail, my husband and I moved back in to care for her. By then, the tree had changed. White, crusty patches scarred its trunk. Several of its fronds hung dead, skeletal fingers scratching the sky. My husband suggested cutting it down. It's dangerous, he said. If it falls, it could hit the roof. When he said that, something deep inside me clenched. I remembered my father's warning, the trembling afternoons, the dry voice dragging itself over my name. But I was an adult now, a mother myself. I told myself I was being childish. Maybe it's time, I said. It's just wood. We called a man who cut trees. He came one morning after Fajr, his chainsaw hanging from his hand, the smell of gasoline already clinging to his clothes. The sky was a pale grey, the world not fully awake. My mother watched from her bed, eyes narrowed. You should recite Ruqya before you touch it, she murmured, just in case. So I stood at the back door, watching the man approach the tree, and I began to recite Suratul Baqarah, the verses I knew. Allah, there is no deity except Him, the ever-living, the sustainer of existence. My voice was steady at first, then started to shake. The nearer he came to the trunk, the heavier the air became, like the atmosphere before an earthquake. He pulled the cord. The chainsaw roared to life. Birds exploded out of the branches of other trees, fleeing, but the date palm remained still, its fronds rigid, no wind. He dug the blade into the trunk. The scream that tore through our backyard was not human. It was a sound of dry bones grinding together, of 1,000 insects shrieking in unison. But beneath it was a distinct, hollow voice. The chainsaw stuttered, choked, then died, smoke curling from its mouth. The man stumbled back, his face drained of color. From the cut in the trunk, a smell rolled out, thick, rotten, like something dead had been trapped inside for years. I gagged, covering my nose. My eyes burned. The bark around the cut seemed to ripple, as if something beneath it was pressing outward, angry at the wound. Aisha. It said my name again, but not like before. This time it was layered, echoing, as if spoken by several mouths at once, from deep inside the tree. My knees buckled. I grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. The worker looked around wildly. "Who's there?" he shouted, voice cracking. "Who is talking?" No one answered him. The voice spoke only to me. "You grew and came back." My tongue felt swollen. Allah, I whispered. Allah is my protector. My heart hammered so hard I thought my chest would split. The air began to vibrate, a low hum that seemed to come from the ground itself. The dead fronds of the palms shivered without wind, rattling like dry bones. The cut in the trunk widened, not with a tearing sound of wood, but with a wet, sliding noise. The bark split, revealing not pale, clean inner wood, but a blackness that swallowed the morning light. It was not a hole. It was like looking into a deep, endless tunnel. Cold air poured out, unnaturally cold, frosting my breath in front of my lips. My husband rushed out, hearing the commotion. "What's happening?" he shouted. "Don't come closer," I screamed. "Stay back." My own voice sounded strange in my ears, distant, as if I was underwater. The worker, trembling, tried again to start the chainsaw, but the cord refused to catch, his hands slipping with sweat. "I'm not working here," he muttered. "There's something wrong with this tree." From the darkness in the trunk, the voice came again, louder now, crawling over my skin. "You used to listen when I called." The blackness seemed to swell, expand, reaching towards me without moving. I felt something wrap, invisible, around my ankles, like cold, thin fingers. I couldn't scream. My mouth opened soundlessly as a pressure rose in my chest. It felt like someone had dropped a stone into my lungs. In my mind flashed the words of Allah. Indeed, there is for him no authority over those who have believed and rely upon their Lord. I clung to them mentally, like a drowning person clinging to a rope. With every fragment of will I had left, I forced the words out. Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. My voice shook, but as I spoke, the grip around my ankles loosened slightly. I continued, reciting every ayah I could remember. The hum in the air rose, then cracked like glass shattering. The cold wind from the trunk surged, hitting me full in the face. I smelled dust, age and something metallic, like blood that had dried a long time ago. The voice twisted, changing, turning bitter. You were mine when you were small, it hissed, the words scraping my mind more than my ears. You listened at my roots. You refused to answer, and now you cut my house. I realized then that all those years, the whispers hadn't been aimless. It had been calling me, a child, trying to draw me closer. I thought of Ibn Kathir's tafsir of the Jinn who listened to human recitation, drawn to it, some to be guided, others to scheme. I wondered which type this was as it seethed in the darkness before me. Leave, I managed to say, the word a broken whisper. This land belongs to Allah alone. I seek refuge with Him. I don't belong to you. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. The sound, the wind, even my own breathing. The world narrowed to the gash in the tree and the blackness inside it. Then in the faintest, coldest whisper, it answered, "We will see. At your grave." The blackness recoiled, funneling back into the trunk like smoke dragged inwards. The cut sealed suddenly, bark groaning as it knitted together, leaving only a dark scar. The icy wind died. The air became still, the smell of rot fading, replaced by the mundane scent of dust and gasoline. I collapsed to my knees, sobbing, my whole body shaking. The worker refused to touch the tree again and left, muttering verses under his breath. My husband held me, confused, frightened, but I couldn't explain. How could I describe the feeling of something unseen learning your name, following you through childhood, waiting silently for you to return? We never cut the tree down. A storm did it for us months later, lightning splitting it in half. Inside, there was no hollow, no corpse, no sign of anything but ordinary wood. Yet the yard felt lighter after that, as if something had finally moved on. My mother passed away not long after, her last words reminding me, never forget your adhkar, Hijja. The unseen watches more than you think. Now, when I walk past that empty patch of earth, especially at Maghrib, the hairs on my neck still rise. Sometimes, the wind passes through the space where the palm once stood, and for a heartbeat, I think I hear my name slipping through the air again. But I answer only with Quran, with the remembrance of Allah, because I know now what Ibn Taymiyyah meant when he said, "The jinn feed off fear and heedlessness." What happened to me may sound like a story, but the unseen is not a story. It is real, and it is close. But closer than all of it is Allah's protection, and whoever clings to Him will never be given over to the whispers of a tree. or the jinn that hide within it. Indeed, Allah is the best of protectors.